My name is Michael Ward, and this is my development update for the Masters project. So let's just jump into it, and I'll talk about what's changed. So one of the big things you can see is that the UI has now some extra elements to it, not just the big health bar at the top. You've got the 3 skill icons in the bottom corner, and then you have the get some distance. You have the 3 skill icons in the bottom corner, and then you have a number of how many enemies you've killed. It's just a nice number. I like to know how many, mutant zombie things I have murdered in a space of time. So the way these work is whenever you hit the ability, you can see they indicate a cooldown. So we'll go to this guy. So you can, there he is. So E. So that's a big cannon blast. Does a lot of damage to a single target, and then we'll do some AoE damage. The last ability is Fury. So the way Fury works is you activate it, and then for the next 5 seconds, you have increased attack speed. Right. So that's that. The other big change I've made is to the monolith. So the monolith used to spawn one item every 60 seconds. It still spawns every 6 seconds. It just now spawns 4, and you have a pick of 4. So right now, here we are. We have 2 burst boots, a rapid fire, and a piercing javelin. So we'll just pick up the boots because movement speed is always nice. And another change is this guy. So this is the first boss type enemy in the game. It's codenamed the Brute. So the way the Brute works is it's a lot slower than every other zombie enemy in the game. But if it hits you to almost dead. He also has a lot more health than everything else. So that's been all the changes. So we'll just jump into some of the blueprints, and we'll just kind of talk about how they work and kind of why I did what I did. So the biggest change with some of the stuff is the player. So the player now currently has both skills here. So pretty simple actually. You have a nade blueprint which just detects when you hit something and then deals damage. It takes the player's base damage and then multiplies it by like a nade multiplier. Another big change is to how attack speed works. So originally how attack speed worked is you would have a base level of attack speed, and then everything would minus a flat value off of it. And what that meant is that there was really a finite amount of attack speed you could get. The way this works now is there's no there's a cap obviously, but there's no kind of it's a lot easier to think about, because basically what it does is you type in how many attacks per second you have, you then divide it by 1, so it's how many attacks per 1 second, and then you get a delay that matches that. So if we just quickly pull up a calculator, if you have 5 attacks per second, the delay is 0.2. So if you had so the delay is 0.2. So this just allows like attack speed to be a little bit more easier to think about on my end. Another change is to the way enemies and items spawn. So all this is the same. The biggest change is the introduction of data tables. So the way data tables work are, in fact I'll just go and pull up the enemy data table and talk it there. So what we have here is we have 3 enemies that you can spawn. We have the Pawn, which is the base, the Brute, which is the first boss enemy, and then we have Speedy, which is currently not implemented because I just need to change the name. Right, and so these all work. These are all based off of the same AI. They're just different stat values, and also eventually will be different models if I have the time. They also have an enemy scale factor. So the Brute is 3 times as big as the enemy, and so basically we pull this data from the table, and then we just set the corresponding stats. This is the same way items are stored. They're then stored on a data table. Delete this for now. And so you've got 5 items, you've got an item rarity, which once I implement, the way it'll work is it will roll like a number between 1 and 100, and if your item is, if the item it's picked is below that, is equal to or below that, it'll spawn it. If not, it won't. And so this is how you can get really rare and powerful items without them being kind of too common that they're just not fun to get. So that's basically all the changes. So we'll just talk about kind of what I'm going to try and get done for the next development update, which will be in 1 to 2 weeks. So the first thing is I want to get the AoE working on the nade. Currently the AoE doesn't work. It's something, it's a bit annoying, but I have a few plans to how I can get it to work. I want to change the items up a bit, because after some recent feedback, the idea I'm kind of going with is that items grant a stronger buff. So this may go from 1.2 to 1.5, but also reduce your health by 200. So you move a lot quicker, but if you get hit, it's a larger damage hit. So this is really important. So those are the 2 major changes. Hopefully they'll be done in a week. My name is Michael Ward. In the description below this video, you'll see a link to my website. You look at kind of the other stuff I've made. You can also find a .io page with this version of the game currently on it, and you're more than welcome to download it, play it, and leave feedback on the video. Any feedback's good feedback at this point.